most recently, he has threatened, his words, severe consequences if Russia does not embark on a path to a ceasefire. And if Putin does not do that, if he doesn't agree to a subsequent meeting and so forth and show a degree of seriousness, I think that the president will, in fact, carry through with his threats on additional sanctions, additional assistance for Ukraine, encourage the European leaders to seize the 300 billion in Russian reserves that have been sitting in their country's banks and put them to better use, i.e. give it to Ukraine, maybe over 25 billion a month or something like that. But again, to continue to make life more difficult for Russia, not just on the battlefield, where we should do so much to help Ukraine just at least stop the Russians on the battlefield, if not actually roll them back, but also economically and financially. And Russia is showing the signs now of the effects of sanctions, of not selling as much oil as in the past, or selling it at reduced rates, which was the deal worked out by the previous U.S. administration to make sure that oil prices at home didn't jump dramatically if you took the somewhere 6, 7, 8 million barrels per day that Russia pumps into the global markets. And this is, of course, also causing strain in the U.S.-India relationship, because India was one of the countries buying millions of barrels of Russian crude oil a day at reduced prices. That was agreed with the United States, and that no longer apparently is approved by those in the White House.
Let's say Putin agrees to meet with Zelensky. Do you see that as a positive sign, or do you see that as, oh, Putin's likely just trying to delay stopping the fight on the front lines for as long as possible?
It's probably the latter. But again, if you could change the dynamics on the battlefield, and it's a big if, but in other words, if we were able to provide so much more to Ukraine, not just the US, but the European countries and other Western supporters, keep in mind that a number of our other partners around the world also don't want to see Putin rewarded for this blatant, unprovoked, brutal invasion of a neighbor that he believes doesn't have a right to exist. That cannot be allowed, again, to continue. And so the assistance provided to enable Ukraine to flat stop the Russians, that would be very, very important, and a real change in the dynamic in a war where, again, Russia has taken such extraordinary casualties for the incremental gains that they have achieved. Keep in mind that what Putin most wants, so he has three objectives, really. First is actually to replace President Zelensky with a pro-Russian figure. The second is to demilitarize Ukraine in the wake of any kind of ceasefire. And the third is he also wants more land than his forces have been able to achieve, particularly in the area so-called Donbass, the southeastern part of the country, Donetsk and Luhansk provinces, but especially in what's called the fortress belt of Donetsk, which the Russians haven't even really approached yet. But it's 4 or 5 major cities, metropolitan areas that are very, very heavily defended, substantial defensive fortifications in the urban areas and actually around them as well. And they cannot give that up. If they give that up, then the road is really open in many respects for the Russians to go to Kharkiv, the second largest city, from inside Ukraine rather than from crossing the border from Russia.